Willie, Nelson has always seemed like a man guided by melodies rather than money, a restless troubadour who'd rather strum his guitar than tally up royalty checks. From his early days in Abbott, Texas, he showed a knack for storytelling and a profound bond with the guitar that would become his lifelong companion. He penned legendary hits for other artists, such as Crazy for Patsy Cline, but even those successes never nudged him toward financial caution. In Nashville, he felt constrained by a system that wanted polished, predictable country music. He fled to Austin, where his raw voice and experimental style found an eager audience. It was there that Willie stepped firmly into the outlaw country movement alongside Waylon, Jennings, and Kristofferson, blazing a trail for a sound that embraced grit and authenticity over the spitshine of Music Row. Though the revolution brought him fame, it also introduced him to a new level of financial chaos. As his tours grew bigger and the money poured in, Willie spent freely. One moment he was buying farmland, the next he was hopping on private flights. Money to him was merely a tool to keep moving, never something to be fussed over. Yet the carefree style that made him a beloved rebel also marked the first steps on a dangerous path, one that would eventually lead the Internal Revenue Service to come knocking with demands he could no longer ignore. By the late 70s, Willie was on the rise. Albums like Red-Headed Stranger cemented his status as a visionary, and fans adored his energetic shows. Celebrities flocked to share a stage with him, convinced there was something magical about his raw, soul-stirring performances. Underneath the spotlight, however, Willie's finances were in disarray. He entrusted managers and accountants to handle the numbers, rarely checking if taxes were paid or if his investments were legitimate. Some around him whispered that Willie's trusting nature was a disaster waiting to happen. But he shrugged off any doubts, reasoning that nothing truly mattered as long as he could pick up his guitar and play.
I won't try to understand.
For a while it worked. He was unstoppable, seemingly hovering above mundane concerns like tax deadlines. Rumors of unpaid bills and missing receipts circulated among music industry insiders, but few believed that a star of Willie's stature could be so reckless. As the money rolled in, he scooped up properties across various states, built a life that included golf courses and private studios, and then jetted off to the next show without a second thought. Some said it was only a matter of time before the IRS, famously patient yet unyielding, decided to roll out the heavy artillery. Sure enough, they would soon tally up what Willie owed, and the final figure would be staggering. Trouble officially arrived when the IRS demanded a multi-million-dollar sum for back taxes, interest, and penalties. At first, Willie dismissed it, believing that a few big shows could mop up the debt. Managers came and went, all promising to untangle the web of receipts and shady deals that had amassed over the years. Willie even hired an illustrious accounting firm, hoping their expertise would rescue him from spiraling tax issues. Instead, he found himself dragged into questionable tax shelters that only deepened the IRS's suspicion. While Willie continued touring, recording, and flashing that unmistakable grin to fans, his financial obligations ballooned behind the scenes. A combination of late fees, penalties, and staggering interest pushed his debt to shocking heights. By the close of the 80s, his once thriving career had also begun to taper off. Younger country stars like George Strait and Alabama gained ground, while Willie's record sales dipped. His live shows still drew crowds, but not at the level that had once made him one of the top earners in music. Despite that downward shift, Willie's debt only continued to grow, reaching tens of millions of dollars. During interviews, he sidestepped the topic of taxes, choosing to talk instead about his next album or his philanthropic work like Farm Aid. If there was panic under his trademark bandana, he kept it hidden, trusting that he'd find a way to endure. By 1990, the IRS had run out of patience. They seized Willie's real estate in multiple states, including homes, a country club, and a recording studio. Most artists would be devastated by such a sweeping confiscation. Willie, however, seemed more concerned about a single acoustic guitar. Known as Trigger, this Martin N20 had been with Willie since 1969. its warm tone woven into every note he played. With its worn wood and a hole in its body from years of passionate strumming, Trigger had become Willie's musical identity. Fearing that the IRS would classify his beloved guitar as an asset to be auctioned off, Willie arranged to have it whisked away to Hawaii just weeks before the government arrived. He later said that if Trigger had been seized, he might have lost the will to carry on, because that guitar wasn't just another piece of memorabilia, it was his voice. Even as the government descended upon his properties and personal items, Willie breathed easy, knowing that his most cherished possession was safe, resting in a remote location far from the IRS's reach. When Willie's belongings hit the auction block, a media frenzy erupted. Fans and curious onlookers gathered, anticipating a goldmine of country music artifacts. Yet many of the items seized were unremarkable or too personal to fetch large sums, leaving the government short of its goal. Willie's friends quietly tried to snap up anything they believed he might want back, hoping they could return those possessions to him later. But with a debt that massive, it was clear Willie needed a more significant solution than a sympathetic friend or fan could provide. Meanwhile, the knowledge that Trigger was safe remained a small victory, a beacon of hope amid the turmoil. Willie's attitude seemed to be that so long as his guitar was still with him, even if it was temporarily hidden away, he would find a path forward. While critics questioned his judgment, fans admired his unwavering commitment to music above material wealth. In interviews, Willie joked about his predicament, telling reporters that he had always been a poor money manager, and that as long as he had a song in his heart, he'd stay afloat. That posture of optimism didn't erase the frightening reality, but it reinforced the myth of Willie as the unflappable outlaw, too in love with the stage to be beaten down by legal troubles. Desperate to regain some control, Willie hammered out a deal with the IRS that stood out as one of the strangest solutions to a tax problem. He agreed to record an album with all proceeds going directly to his debt. Titled The IRS Tapes, Who'll Buy My Memories? The release was half redemption, half publicity stunt, showcasing Willie's willingness to exploit his own predicament for creative output. Fans felt a personal stake, snapping up copies in an effort to help him overcome his financial crisis. The project hardly cleared the full debt, but it chipped away at the total owed. Lawsuits were also filed against former advisors, and negotiations reduced the overall sum. Little by little, the hopelessly large figure shrank to a more manageable number, though it still dwarfed what most people earn in a lifetime. Through it all, Willie kept performing. Sometimes he'd crack a joke about the IRS, then glide into a rendition of On the Road Again, as if to reassure everyone, including himself, that life would carry on. The man who had once soared in the top 10 touring acts was now in survival mode, but his shows remained spirited, a testament to his willpower and the loyalty of a fan base that had stuck with him through every twist and turn. It took years of negotiations, album sales, and determined goodwill before Willie emerged with his debt resolved. He managed to buy back a few key properties, including a favorite golf course. More importantly, he got Trigger returned to him, ensuring that his partnership with the beloved guitar remained unbroken. In typical Willie fashion, he seemed to shrug off the entire affair as a learning experience, something that added color to his long and winding career. Some skeptics argued that he would never fully change his ways, and maybe he didn't. But Willie's troubles, along with the dramatic rescue of Trigger, became legend. A cautionary tale for younger artists who might otherwise ignore the business side of stardom, and a triumphant story for fans who relished seeing him persevere against overwhelming odds. Through it all, Willie held on to a sense of humor that kept cynicism at bay. Rather than sink into bitterness, he insisted that one must keep playing, keep writing, and keep trusting that tomorrow holds another chord to strum. Looking back on that period, the most extraordinary detail remains the rescue of Trigger. Yes, Willie reclaimed some properties, cut deals to lower his debt, and fought through legal skirmishes. But the real symbol of his survival is that ragged guitar with the hole in its body. If the IRS had seized it, who knows what shape Willie's music or spirit might have taken. For him, Trigger wasn't just an instrument, but a faithful friend that had seen him through every heartbreak and triumph. Shipping the guitar to Hawaii might have seemed reckless or impulsive, yet it proved to be the wisest financial move he ever made. The guitar that had graced some of the most iconic songs in country music was preserved, allowing him to maintain a vital link to his soul as an artist. It's a testament to what Willie values most, not mansions or glitzy trophies, but the simple, intimate power of a heartfelt performance. Through the 90s and beyond, Willie kept evolving. He recorded collaborations that straddled genre lines, from pop to rap, never losing the fearless spark that made him a pioneer in outlaw country. Controversies about his cannabis use persisted, and every so often new rumors of financial slip-ups popped up. Still, nothing compared to the fiasco with the IRS. That episode stood as the apex of his mismanagement, an event so massive it could have ended his career. But Willie thrived, wearing his rebellious spirit like a badge of honor. Fans packed venues to hear him play classics and new songs alike. Younger generations discovered his music and saw in him a symbol of perseverance. His philanthropic pursuits, particularly farm aid, continued, reflecting a genuine desire to use his platform to help those struggling on the margins. For all the mischief and wild tales, Willie was ultimately a man of empathy, always ready to lend a hand or a melody to those in need. Over time, the media circus around his finances faded, replaced by stories of his collaborations, humanitarian efforts, and the enduring quality of his voice. To this day, when Willie appears on stage cradling Trigger, the sight is a reminder of everything he's overcome. The guitar's weathered face signals the hours upon hours of performances, the nights spent in smoky bars before fame arrived, and the storm of legal troubles that nearly tore everything away. Each time he strums a chord, it's as though he's reaffirming the bond that set him apart from the start. The saga of Willie saving Trigger illustrates the heart of his identity, an artist first, and an imperfect businessman second. Watching him deliver a soulful ballad, it's hard not to feel a sense of awe at his stamina. He's outlived rivals, watched entire waves of country stars come and go, and faced the most daunting financial showdown imaginable. Yet here he stands, still gripping that same battered guitar, still forging a path through country music's ever-changing landscape. If anything, the entire ordeal only added to the layers of myth surrounding him, making him more beloved in the eyes of fans who see him as the ultimate underdog victor. Willie's story also resonates because it touches on that universal tension between art and commerce. Even if most creative individuals aren't dealing with a multi-million-dollar tax bill, they can relate to the struggle of balancing passion with practicality. Willie's tale may serve as a cautionary note, but it also underscores that art thrives when nurtured by genuine devotion rather than calculated moves. If he had chased money over music, he might never have sung with such raw honesty. That rawness forged a connection with audiences worldwide. So, in a strange sense, his financial recklessness contributed to the free spirit that endeared him to so many. It's not an endorsement of ignoring taxes, but it does reveal a truth. Willie's authenticity sprang from the fact that he was always more focused on playing than on getting paid. As the decades stacked up, Willie earned countless honors, including a spot in the Country Music Hall of Fame, Grammy recognition, and tributes that spanned generations of artists. But he never let accolades define him. He remained the humble Texan who once roamed from bar to bar in search of a stage. The rescue of Trigger exemplifies his unwavering integrity. Take away the houses, the cars, or even the gold records, but don't touch the guitar that holds his heart. Many still marvel at the decision to spirit Trigger off to Hawaii. But for Willie, it was obvious. He had to protect the soul of his music, no matter the cost. That guitar has since become something of a cultural artifact, revered by fans as a symbol of unbreakable artistry. Younger country stars gaze at it with awe, aware that in its weather-beaten frame lies a piece of America's musical heritage. Willie, for his part, has never lost the sense of gratitude for having kept Trigger safe. Concluding the saga, one might expect Willie to reflect on regrets. He might wish he had been more careful, that he'd hired honest managers or stayed on top of taxes from the beginning. In interviews, though, he rarely dwells on those what-ifs. The Willie Nelson philosophy seems to be that life unfolds in mysterious ways and that every detour shapes the journey. He stares down adversity with the same calm he brings to a ballad, certain that the song will always find its way to the ending. Ultimately, he didn't just bounce back from his financial ruin. He thrived, forging a legacy that is now woven into the fabric of American music. Over the years, fans have discovered that Willie Nelson is more than a country icon. He's a living testament to the idea that genuine passion, combined with a little bit of luck, can carry a person through the fiercest storms. And for all the tribulations, Willie never betrayed his first love. He saved the guitar that had been his constant companion, ensuring that when the dust finally settled, the music never stopped. So where does Willie Nelson stand today, decades after his showdown with the IRS and his triumphant rescue of Trigger? Perhaps the most striking aspect of his ongoing journey is how he has never lost that mischievous sparkle in his eye. When asked about the ordeal in interviews, he might offer a wry grin and deflect the subject to something more uplifting, like his latest album or an upcoming charity concert. Yet the lessons remain, etched into the lines on his face and the brassy twang of his singing voice. He still tours relentlessly, even as newer generations of fans discover his music through streaming services, documentaries, or late-night talk show appearances. Trigger still rests in his arms night after night, that iconic hole in the guitar's body framed by countless signatures, dings, and scratches. Each mark tells a story of nights spent under glaring stage lights and days lost to restless travel between distant towns. Those who meet Willie today are struck by how approachable he remains, forever the good-natured outlaw who never let fame, or even a crisis as big as a multi-million-dollar tax debt, cloud his humanity. Far from hiding his past, he occasionally references that turbulent chapter in his life with a sort of amused humility. It made him stronger, he'll say, and it taught him who he could count on when things got tough. Perhaps more than anything, it confirmed his belief that a man with a guitar and a song has a power that can't be easily stamped out by paperwork and legal threats. As long as he can wrap his hands around Trigger and sing a melody to a cheering crowd, Willie Nelson will always be Willie Nelson, an artist defined not by money or property, but by the music that keeps flowing through every chord change and heartfelt lyric. For many, that is the greatest legacy of all.